Greetings, folks. Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles. And this episode is very much off the cuff. I was kind of thinking, what the hell do I talk about? What should this episode be all about? So I thought, what the hell? I'm just going to randomly pick 4 albums, literally with my eyes closed. Grabbed 4 albums, 4 vinyl this time around. And we're going to chat about them because I couldn't come up with anything else. Yeah, I was a bit lazy, I guess. Anyway, I've picked 4, and so none of this has been prepared. I haven't. This is going to be very quick. Just a quick synopsis of each album. And maybe it'll inspire you to go and check them out. And as I said, there's 4 of them. So let's get stuck in. The first one is a Robin Trower album. I love this cover. I love the color. I'm not quite sure what the whole design is supposed to be. The album is called In City Dreams, and that's actually In City Dreams. I only worked that out recently. And that's the back there. In City Dreams. So this album, it's not as bluesy as the early Robin Trower solo stuff. It's still a great lineup here. Obviously, Robin Trower on guitar, James Dewar on vocals, the guy who was with him from the beginning, Rusty Allen on bass, and Bill Lorden on drums. And both James Dewar and Bill Lorden appear with him on that great live album, which I think I've spoken about previously. So James Dewar doesn't do the bass work on here. It's done by Rusty Allen, and he only does the singing. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the final album to feature James Dewar, and then he left. There may have been one after this, but I'm pretty sure this was the final one for him, In City Dreams. As I said, not as bluesy as the early stuff, but more on the commercial side, if that's the right word to use. Some of the standout tracks, Somebody Calling, Sweet Wine of Love, Bluebird, which is quite a nice mellow track, Falling Star, Further Up the Road, that's on side 1. Then you get side 2, Smile, Little Girl, Love's Gonna Bring You Around, and the title track, In City Dreams. This is on the Chrysalis label, the same label which Jethro Tull was on for many years. Recorded at Criteria Studios in Miami. Produced by Don Davis. There's nothing much else to show you inside. That's just some of the other Robin Trower albums that were advertised here. That's about it. It's a good album. Not his best, I don't think. For me, that would still be Bridge of Sighs. Twice Removed from Yesterday, the very first one. I think that's still a classic. But I don't think he's ever really produced a bad album. So there we go. That's my first sort of random pick for the day. Robin Trower's In City Dreams. And we're following that up with some progressive rock from Canada, the band Rush, and Grace Under Pressure. This would be Rush venturing more into the keyboard side of things, the synth side of things. Not as much as some of the others like Hold Your Fire, but they were definitely going in that direction. It's produced by Rush and Peter Henderson. I think he did 1 or 2 albums with them. Still a really good album, but it's not the high-pitched vocals of Geddy Lee. He's bringing it down here a tad, which I think a lot of people were quite happy with. A lot of people struggle with these early vocals and that really high-pitched stuff. It isn't a quiet taste, I have to be honest. They all look very different there, very mod, very 80s. When did this come out? This was in 1984. Let me just check. I can't see the date on this thing. What year is this? 1984, yes. So very much the 80s. And very different. No more sword and sorcery stuff. This is very much shorter tracks, not the lengthy epic stuff from Caress of Steel or A Farewell to Kings, those albums, Hemispheres. This is very different Rush. Some of the standout tracks on here: Distant Early Warning, After Image, Red Sector A is a great track. I like some of the synths and keyboards on here. It wasn't overpowering, but it would get to the stage where Alex Lyson, the guitarist, said, hang on, why am I in this band if it's not for playing the guitar? I think he got a bit peed off. Then you get side 2, the Body Electric, Kid Gloves, Red Lenses, and Between the Wheels. And inside, let's get that photograph there, which is quite cool. And there you have all the lyrics. So obviously Geddy Lee, bass guitar, synthesizers, vocals, Alex Lifeson, guitar and synthesizers. There we go, synthesizers. Neil Peart, drums, percussion, and electronic percussion. Something I'm not a big fan of, you know. Give me an acoustic drum kit any day. Anyway, that's the second one. Rush from Canada, Grace Under Pressure. If you're a completist like I am, it took me a while to get into this kind of Rush, but you have to separate it from the early stuff. It's a different kind of Rush. Production, of course, is perfect. You know, these guys were very particular about how they wanted their records to sound. I mean, even their live stuff is incredible. So there we go, Rush, Grace Under Pressure. My third, just grabbing from the collection. Now, this band has released so many live albums over their career, and this one often gets overlooked. It's not the best, I have to be honest, but there's some good stuff on here. I'm talking about Deep Purple's, what is this called? Nobody's Perfect. Ain't that the truth, folks? Not the best cover in the world, sort of very minimalist kind of thing, and, you know, it doesn't do much for me, I have to be honest. Inside, there's some nice sort of photographs of the band and tour photographs and what have you, which is a bit more interesting than the actual cover. And then on the inside, I mean, how's this? How are you supposed to read that writing? I mean, you'd have to have some sort of training to do this. I honestly cannot read what this says. I'm trying to get hold of who's in the... This was, I think, still with Richie Blackmore before he left. Highway Stars on here, Strange Kind of Woman, Perfect Strangers, Hard Loving Woman, Bad Attitude, Knocking at Your Back Door. This was released in 88. So yes, this is still with Blackmore. Child in Time, Lazy, Space Trucking, Black Knight, Woman from Tokyo, and Smoke in the Water with Hush. So it's pretty much the hits, all the well-known tracks, apart from Bad Attitude, Perfect Strangers, and Knocking at Your Back Door, which came off the album Perfect Strangers. So I think this would have been the Perfect Strangers tour, obviously, album being called Nobody's Perfect. This was in Richie was still chatting to the rest of the guys. Double album, and it's okay. You know, the production ain't that fantastic, and that's probably why it's been overlooked by so many people. But as I've mentioned previously, if you're a collector, you might want to check this one out. Nobody's Perfect. I must be honest, I haven't listened to this for many years. That's the thing, when I just sort of grabbed these records, I had no idea what I was grabbing. And I might give this another listen, actually. If I remember, there was a really good version of Space Trucking on here. There we go. So that's Deep Purple, Nobody's Perfect. And then finally, in my short random look at stuff, I grabbed this one, Nazareth, Loud and Proud. One of the really great Nazareth albums. For me, their first 5 or 6... Hair of the Dog was probably my favorite. I'm not too sure where that comes in, but that would be one of the early ones. Loud and Proud, definitely. I'm going to tell you, there's a great picture of the band there. Dan McCavity, the late Dan McCavity now, with a bottle of wine between his legs. And who else was in the band? Dan McCavity, lead vocals. Manny Charlton, lead slide, acoustic guitar and vocals. Pete Agnew, bass and vocals, and Daryl Sweet on drums, percussion and vocals. So that was the classic lineup, I think. There would be quite a few changes over the years, but this is the lineup that I really enjoyed. Album was produced by Roger Glover, of course, from Deep Purple. Recorded at Gunghood, Jamestown, Scotland, Scottish band. So let's see, what are the tracks on here? There's the lyrics as well, which are cool. Go Down Fighting, that's a really great track. Some great excellent vocals from Dan McCavity. You know, that really high-pitched voice. Could have been a perfect foil for the guys in AC/DC when Brian Johnson left, but they chose to go with Axl Rose. Not Faking It, Turn On Your Receiver, Teenage Nervous Breakdown, and Freewheeler. Some great riffs. This was a really riff-driven band in the beginning. They went a bit more commercial later on in the 80s and the 90s. That's on side, so that's all on side one. Side two, they do an excellent version, a very different version, obviously, of the Joni Mitchell track, This Flight Tonight. These are all quite lengthy tracks on side two. There's only 3 of them. Then they do a Bob Dylan track, which is very cool, very sort of brooding, quite a lengthy track called The Ballad of Hollis Brown. I'm sure this raised quite a few eyebrows for the Dylan fans, you know, Nazareth doing Dylan, but I think it kind of works. And the track in between those two is Child in the Sun, and that's a Nazareth track. Mooncrest label, this was a local pressing. And let's just see what year this was. 1973. Nazareth's Loud and Proud. I really dig that cover. It's quite a bold, sort of in your face. I think that's supposed to be a peacock. There we go. So those are my 4 random picks. The Robin Trial was 1977, by the way, the first one I showed you. So I think I'm going to do a few more of these. It's quite fun. You never know what I might pick. And I might just dive into the CDs next time. We shall see. There we go, short and sweet. It's pretty weird, the weather today. We were supposed to have a thunderstorm. There were a few thunderclaps and a bit of lightning. And then it all buggered off. You know, I was expecting this dramatic storm and, yeah, nothing much happened really. I mean, we're into summer now, so it's quite unusual to have a storm this time of the year. But anyway, that's as far as the weather goes. Take it easy, guys. Look after yourselves. I'll catch you soon for another video. And, yeah, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.